My third deployment had been the hardest yet. Not because of the heat or the endless sandstorms, not because of the sleepless nights or the sound of distant gunfire, but because I missed home more than I ever had before. Every letter my wife sent, every photo of our dog curled up on the couch, every I love you text made me hold on to one thing. Hope. Hope that when I returned, I'd finally rest, not just physically, but in the arms of someone I believed still loved me. I'd been gone for 9 months. No breaks. No surprise trips home. Just video calls when the signal worked and a handful of mailed gifts that always arrived weeks too late. But through it all, she kept saying, "I'm proud of you. I'm here. Just come home safe." I believed her. The day I landed back on U.S. soil, I didn't even go to my apartment first. I had my buddy drop me straight at her place. I was tired, dusty, and hadn't slept in almost 2 days, but I didn't care. I just wanted to see her smile when I showed up at the door. But she wasn't home. The key still worked. I walked in, expecting candles or maybe one of her little handwritten notes stuck to the fridge. But the apartment felt wrong. Not cold. Not empty. Just clean. Too clean. Like it had been cleared out for someone else. Half her clothes were missing. So was the photo of us from our wedding, the one that used to hang in the hallway. I stood in silence for a minute, still in uniform, still holding the duffel bag that had followed me through hell. And for the first time in months, I felt like I was the stranger. 10 minutes later, I got a text. "We need to talk. Tomorrow." "I've already filed." At first, I didn't understand. Filed what? Then the follow-up came. "I've met someone better. It's over. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be." I didn't even sit down. I just walked out. The street outside hadn't changed. The mailbox still had our last name on it. But I wasn't the same man, and clearly neither was she. I slept in my car that night. Not because I didn't have anywhere else to go, but because I didn't know who I was coming home to anymore. The next morning, I walked into the courthouse like I'd walked into dozens of briefings overseas. Calm on the outside, chaos inside. She was already there. Dressed nice. Hair done. Sitting beside a man I had never seen before. He didn't flinch when he saw me. Didn't even have the decency to look guilty. She barely met my eyes. When the judge asked if there was anything I wanted to say, I paused. Because I had plenty to say. But what would it change? Nothing I could say would bring back the version of her I used to know. I stood there in the courtroom, wearing my uniform. Not to make a point. Not to gain sympathy. It was just all I had. My life was packed into that duffel bag, and my heart was still stuck somewhere between sand and silence. She wore a soft blue dress, the same color she used to say brought out her eyes. Her new man, sitting beside her, leaned in occasionally to whisper something. She smiled, laughed even, like this was just another errand. I wondered if she had worn that same smile when she had filed the papers, when she had told him about me, when she had started calling someone else babe, while I was dodging mortars overseas. The judge read through the documents with the efficiency of someone who had seen this kind of betrayal far too often. Alina Parker requests full dissolution of marriage, citing irreconcilable differences. Both parties agree on division of property. No children, no joint assets remaining. No children. That was true. We tried once. Miscarriage at 11 weeks. She cried in my arms all night, and I thought that pain had brought us closer. But now I realized. It might have been the beginning of the end. "Alina," the judge said. "Any final comments before we proceed?" She stood, cleared her throat. "I respect what he's done for this country. I do. But we've grown apart. We're different people now. That's all." Not a tear. Not a flicker of hesitation. No acknowledgement of what I had endured for us. No recognition of the months I spent in a place where every goodbye might have been the last. I felt my jaw tighten. The judge turned to me. "Mr. Parker? Anything to say?" I nodded. Not because I had something clever or angry to deliver, but because I knew I wouldn't sleep that night if I didn't say something. "I went away to serve," I began. "And every single day I thought about home. About her. About what we'd built. And I came back expecting it to still be there. But I guess I was the only one who kept showing up to that version of us." Alina shifted in her seat. I looked at her. Not the way I used to, not with love. Just with exhaustion. With grief. I'm not here to fight for someone who doesn't want me. You already made your choice before I ever stepped off that plane. The courtroom stayed silent. Even the new guy looked a little uncomfortable now. Maybe he hadn't expected me to speak at all. Maybe he thought I'd break down, or cause a scene. But I didn't. Because I'd already survived war. And now, I was just surviving her absence. The judge nodded, tapped the papers, and said what I knew was coming. Divorce finalized. Just like that. A 6-year marriage reduced to 2 words and a stamped file. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't even turn around as she walked out of the courtroom with her new life by her side. And I sat there for another minute, not because I didn't want to leave, but because I didn't know where to go next. The home we shared wasn't mine anymore. The future I imagined had already been handed to someone else. But the silence that followed? That was mine. And in that silence, something inside me began to shift. Not anger, not bitterness. Just clarity. I didn't rush to start over. Some people cope by diving into distractions. New cities, new partners, new lives. But me? I went back to the basics. I rented a small place near a park, something quiet. I bought cheap furniture, second-hand plates, a bed that didn't creak every time I turned. No framed photos. No wedding rings hidden in drawers. Just silence. At first, that silence was unbearable. Every sound felt too loud in its absence. No good mornings. No soft laughs from the kitchen. No toothbrush beside mine. Just the echo of her name in places she used to stand. I'd walk into a room, and still half expect to hear her voice. Like some part of my mind hadn't caught up to reality yet. But over time the silence started to change. It became calm. The kind of quiet that lets you breathe. The kind that doesn't remind you of what's missing, but instead lets you hear your own thoughts again. I took up cooking, not because I was good at it, but because I needed to create something that was just mine. I went on long walks with my dog, who never once asked why the bed felt emptier. I even started writing down small things I was grateful for, just to remind myself that life hadn't ended. It had just shifted. One night, about 2 months after the divorce, I got a text. It was from her. I just wanted you to know. I think about you sometimes. I hope you're okay. No apology. No regret. Just a sentence that hung in the air like a ghost. I stared at it for a long time. And then I deleted it. Not because I hated her. Not because I wanted revenge. But because there was nothing left to fix. Some things break quietly and stay broken. Not out of anger, but out of truth. She had moved on long before I even landed back home. And now, I finally had to. One morning, I stood at my window with a cup of coffee and watched the sun rise over a street full of strangers. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel lost. I just felt present. I had gone to war 3 times and come back alive. But it was the 4th battle, the one I never saw coming, that truly changed me. And strangely, it didn't leave me with hate or bitterness. It left me with freedom. The freedom to rebuild from zero. To love more carefully. To trust myself before trusting anyone else. To never again beg to stay in a place where I'm no longer welcome. So no, this isn't the story of a man who got revenge. Or who found someone new and lived happily ever after. It's the story of a man who came home expecting love. And instead, found himself.